are less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, and I'm going to get you as prepared as I can for some possible surprises at the number 23 overall pick. I'm going to give you 5 names that I think Green Bay could be targeting. It'd be a surprise to me. It'd be a surprise to you. But hey, we've seen this team do crazier things on draft day. I've done a top targets video before. Here's my 5 top targets that I want Green Bay to be looking at, going after come April 24th. Jahdae Barron, Mykel Williams, Matthew Golden, James Pearce Jr., Derek Harmon. Those are my top 5. But today's episode, remember, it's surprises. Guys you might think might be a little bit of a reach, and guys that I think, would be a very big reach. We're going to talk about that on today's show. Before that, though, make sure you follow me on Twitter. You can find me at Joey Petersen 8. And the first 5 followers that I get from today's video, you guys will get a shout out on Monday, okay? So again, Joey Petersen 8 is where you can find me. This link is going to be in the comments and description of today's video. It's going to be right under that first paragraph. You can click on that, follow me right there. Tweet about the Packers every single day. I'm a great follow. I can promise you that. I might be a little bit biased, but hit me up at Joey Petersen 8. Alrighty, let's start with surprise target number 1. Emeka Egbuka, Ohio State wide receiver with the scarlet and gray. And Emeka Egbuka was in for a top 30 visit this week. And it's been pretty obvious that Green Bay has liked him, that they've been interested in him. Now, this would be a surprise to me because I don't really necessarily think that Emeka Egbuka is a guy that belongs in the first round. And I know that this isn't a insane wide receiver draft class, and I think Egbuka is a guy that if you put him in last year's draft class, he is not even, I don't even know if he's a early second round selection. And so I would be shocked if at pick number 23 the Green Bay Packers selected him. He had 1,000 yards this last season, 81 catches with Ohio State. Again, I think he's going to be a fine talent. I just don't know if he's a first rounder. I don't think he is a first rounder, but it's obvious that Green Bay is interested in him. Let's talk about the good, okay, when looking at Emeka Egbuka. He's a willing and able blocker, and for a team who had a running back have over 300 carries in 2024, that's something that is very important. He has incredibly solid hands, only 5 drops in 2024, which for a team that had a lot of drop issues, second most drops in the National Football League, that also is something that is very important. And despite not being incredibly big, he's only 6 feet, a little bit under 6'1". He's pretty good in contested catches as well. Let's talk about the bad, though. This is my biggest thing about him. He was never the true wide receiver 1 at Ohio State. And I get it. He played with a lot of really talented receivers. Jeremiah Smith this past year, Marvin Harrison Jr. the 2 years prior. But still, 4 years at Ohio State was never the go-to guy. I don't know how anybody can expect him to be that go-to guy come to getting to this next level. He's an okay yards after catch creator, nothing great. Nothing horrible, but like nothing special. And because of his size, he's got a limited catch radius. Now, we talked about in the good, he is, good in contested areas, but his radius is a little bit limited. Get creative for me. Let me know in the comment section down below. Name a surprise candidate the Packers could draft at pick number 23. I just gave you one name. I'm about to give you 4 more, but before I give you any of the next ones, you let me know in the comment section down below. Who's a surprise name you think Green Bay should pick and could pick at number 23? Target number 2, let's talk Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss. Trey Amos is a guy who's incredibly fluid. I love the way his feet move. I love the way his body moves in coverage. His relative athletic score is pretty solid, an 8.37. It's nothing like off the charts eye-popping, but it's definitely something you want to see at a prospect that you could be picking in the first round. His broad jump, 10 feet, was really impressive, an 8.5 on the RAS score. He had a really good 40-yard dash of 4.43. His weight and his bench is a little bit lower, but come cornerbacks, those are kind of 2 things that you don't necessarily need to worry about as much. Let's talk about the good with Trey Amos. He had a really low average allowed in coverage this past year in 2024. That means he either didn't let up chunk plays, or when he did let up chunk plays, he made the tackle pretty quickly. He's got quick hips and quick feet like I talked about before, and he's got some press ability as well. That's definitely not his strongest suit, but he's not a minus press man coverage corner. However, he does have a little bit of bad. He had a delay. He was like a delayed breakout player. Started his career at Alabama, never really found his footing there. Really only had one good year in college, and that was this past one with Ole Miss. He missed way too many tackles this year, 6 in total. And the thing about him is when he's in off-man coverage and not close to the wide receiver, not in press man coverage, he's not near as comfortable. And so that's kind of something to keep an eye on, that if he's not going to be in press coverage in the NFL, is he going to have comfort in that, or is he going to struggle? Let's talk about a third target. How about Bradyn Swinson, defensive end out of LSU? And this is one of those guys that I think might be one of the most underrated prospects in this upcoming NFL draft. And I would not be surprised if Green Bay just absolutely fell in love with him. Now, I would be surprised if they fell in love with him and made the pick at number 23, because I do think you could get him in the second round. However, the closer it gets to draft time and the more and more people get the film on him and look at the film on him and look at the stats on him and just kind of do their own deep dives, I would not be surprised to see him flying up draft boards. He's 6'4", basically, a little bit under that. 255 pounds, 8.5 sacks this past year. But it's not necessarily the statistics that blow me away. It's the numbers when you look at the PFF grades. Now, I know. I say this every time. I'm going to keep saying it. PFF is not gospel. Okay? I don't see these numbers and say, okay, 100% he's going to be a success. However, when you do see these numbers, it is very helpful to kind of show you and illustrate for you how good a player is and how good a player was. He had a 90.3 pass rush grade in 2024. Absolutely ridiculous. His true pass rush grade was 91.4, which is even more impressive. And the most impressive of them all, he had a 22.1 pass rush win rate, which means basically on a fourth of every one of his pass rushes, he won before 3 seconds. Unreal. Unbelievable. Let's talk about the good. When scouting a guy like Bradyn Swinson, he's got a knack for getting his hands up, which I think is very underrated when you talk about defensive linemen, when you talk about edge rushers. Kind of a bit of a lost art. He's very effective at getting after the quarterback, and that's because he can win in multiple ways, and also his motor is just incredibly high. He doesn't ever stop his pursuit. And he's got good hand usage overall, whether that's in the air, like we talked about with that first point, or rip, swim, whatever he needs to do to get to that quarterback. Let's talk about the bad, though. He doesn't have great power against the run. He's definitely more of a pass rush edge rusher, right? Doesn't give you a ton in run defense. It was a bit high on the missed tackle rate this past year, higher than I'd like to see. And he does have a little bit of a tendency to rush high. And this is something that I noticed from my little time of watching film with him. He can get high, and that allows offensive tackles, offensive linemen to get their hands under his pads and win that leverage. Coming up, I got 2 more surprise draft picks. Draft options for the Green Bay Packers at pick number 23. Make sure you guys stick around. I'm going to reveal those 2 to you, break them down as well. But before I do that, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, because we got the best draft coverage you could find right here on YouTube at the Packers Report, okay? We do weekly mock drafts. I'm going to release tomorrow my 9th mock draft of the season. Actually, is it my 8th? 9th or 8th. I've been doing them a lot. They've been a ton of fun. We got breaking Packers draft rumors. Anything we hear from the inside sources, we get to you guys. We also do deep analysis of the top targets, just like we're doing right here on today's show. So if we haven't convinced you already, I'm trying to convince you right now. Lock us in right now by hitting that sub button. Let's talk offensive line. Josh Conerly Jr., offensive tackle out of Oregon. This is a guy who's fluctuated on draft boards over the past couple of weeks. A few months ago, I saw him as a top draft target and a guy that I thought was going to go in the early 20s. Recently, he's been falling out of the first round in some mock drafts, and so I think at pick number 23, if he's still there and if Green Bay has fallen in love with him, he could be the selection. Now, why do I say that? Because when you look at this offensive line depth chart, like we have all offseason long, you look at the 2 tackles, Rasheed Walker and Zach Tom, and you have a ton of confidence in both those guys because they did really well in 2024. Okay, Jordan Morgan, Brian Gutekunst said a couple of weeks ago that he's going to get some run at that left tackle spot, so that'll be interesting. However, Rasheed Walker is going into a contract year. So if Josh Conerly Jr. is there at pick number 23, and Goody, this front office, they believe that he's a guy they could be interested in. He's a guy that they could want to take a chance on to, I don't want to say sit a year, but, take 2025 as a learning year, play a good bit here and there, and then be the guy when Rasheed Walker eventually walks because they might not want to pay him this next offseason. Josh Conerly Jr., 2024, had 965 snaps, a 78 overall grade, 83.5 pass block grade. He was phenomenal for Dillon Gabriel. Only allowed one sack in 965 snaps. This is a guy who's played a ton of football over the last few years. This is a guy who has played for a lot of really good quarterbacks over the last few years. He's blocked for a lot of NFL caliber quarterbacks over the last few years, right? Got his good run in with Justin Herbert. Obviously was there protecting Dillon Gabriel's blind side. And he's gotten to block for guys who are both lefties, both righties. He's had a lot of really good experience in his last 4 years in school. Let's round this one out with a cornerback target. Shavon Revel Jr., East Carolina cornerback. And this is a guy that before this past year, before the injury, everybody thought Shavon Revel Jr. was going to be a first-round pick. I thought that as well. And I still think that Green Bay is incredibly interested in him because he has a top 30 visit with the Packers. And so it's obvious they want to get him in for some further evaluation. They want to get their own looks on him. They want to get their own scouts to put eyes on him. And he's a guy that's still incredibly impressive. If you look at this last year, he was absolutely balling before that injury. Now, it was a big injury. It was an ACL tear, but that is my number one thing on him when you look at the good parts of his scouting report. Had a fantastic year. He's a good tackler. Only 4 misses for 5.6%, which anytime you can get a good tackler in that cornerback room, which is usually filled with a lot of guys who don't really want to tackle, that's always a good thing. He's got really good size and frame as well. He has NFL size, as they say. Let's talk about the bad, though. He did tear his ACL in September. That is the biggest knock on him. A lot of people don't know if they want to take that risk for a guy who didn't play a full season, is coming off a massive injury. He's prone to allowing chunk plays, and a lot of that is because he can get greedy when trying to read quarterbacks. A lot of times he bites on the eyes, bites on the fakes, loves getting the gap ball, right? He's kind of like a Trayvon Diggs type receiver. Boom or bust almost. So, he's a guy that if there are 23, say Jahdae Barron's gone, say somehow Maxwell Hairston's gone, Will Johnson's gone, and they really feel like they need a cornerback, they could take a chance and draft Shavon Revel Jr. I'm going to flash those 5 up for you. Pick 1 to draft. Emeka Egbuka, Trey Amos, Bradyn Swinson, Josh Conerly Jr., or Shavon Revel Jr. You see the initials right there. Go ahead and type them in the comment section for me. Pick 1 of those 5. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button while you're already down there. Join us as we get ready for the NFL Draft. It's going to be an absolute blast. Cannot wait to be here covering it for you all for the entirety of it. We'll see you next time.